Let's first understand what happens in the brain when you view pornography. Brain studies have shown that the brain releases powerful chemicals when someone views pornography, such as adrenaline, dopamine, and serotonin, just to name a few. The chemical reaction in the brain is similar to what happens when someone uses cocaine. In addition to the chemicals in the brain, there's strong anchoring that takes place. Whenever we experience peak emotions, happiness, sadness, pain, or pleasure, these emotions get anchored in our brain and our body. Whatever our surroundings are during the intense emotions get associated with that feeling. People's natural sex drive gets anchored with pornography when they view it. And if that weren't enough, the hypothalamus is the gland in the brain that regulates emotional balance. When someone gets out of balance emotionally, the hypothalamus accesses the person's memories to see where they got in balance in the past. Even if this was an unhealthy activity, the brain will create cravings for that behavior because it temporarily gets things back in balance. To make the issue even worse, most people experience a strong feeling of shame and letdown after viewing porn. It's very similar to the guilt after a binge or a hangover. The shame drives the person to commit, to be extra good, and not engage in the behavior anymore. And the person works extra hard to make up for their actions. This is the control side of the shame cycle. That self-punishment leads to imbalance, which leads to cravings, and then the person generally gives in to the feelings again. This vicious cycle of shame keeps you stuck in the behavior. Over time, the shame becomes a big part of your identity and your core self-image. See, your brain's job is to keep you alive, not to keep you successful or happy or even healthy. It's designed to keep you alive. Part of the way it does this is by constantly creating equilibrium or balance in our environments. An example of this is when someone smokes. Initially, the body resists the chemicals that come with tobacco, but because most people aren't listening to their bodies when they smoke, the brain eventually says, all right, it looks like we're going to have to deal with all these chemicals, so let's create equilibrium with them. The brain deals with it and learns to survive. Then when the person realizes one day that smoking doesn't serve them anymore, and they decide to quit, the brain says, whoa, wait a minute, we want our old chemicals. The body and the brain will then do everything in their power to restore that equilibrium. They'll create all kinds of emotions to get things back to normal. Anxiety, craving, depression, fear, you name it. The body and the brain will throw it out there. It's this gap, this period of time during change, that keeps most people from actually changing. See, they attempt to change, and their brain resists it. As soon as they run into the emotions of fear and resistance, they go back to the old behavior, even though it doesn't serve them. Trying to change on your own is like trying to cross a cliff without a bridge. And if you resist these emotions long enough to get through this gap, the brain will eventually create equilibrium again in the new environment. See, it's not enough just to stop the behavior or get rid of the computer. Once the brain has been wired for this, it takes a long-term approach to healing to create lasting change. But here's the great news. Studies have shown that if you introduce a new thought to the brain with emotion every day for about 30 days, it creates a new neural pathway in the brain. And if you continue to reinforce it for about 90 days, it becomes the primary neural pathway in the brain. Or on a cellular level, it becomes who you are. You can literally reprogram your brain to think differently.